The platformer. An ancient genre. Certainly getting less attention than it used to, it's still a good place for designers to pick up basics in player physics and level design. Whether you like your platformers with a side of puzzles or combat, we should cover the basics first. So how do the classics hold up today? Well, if we're talking about defining platformers, how can we not start with New Super Mario Bros.? While easier in difficulty, it can teach us some core principles. We'll be covering the Wii version since that and the original DS title have the largest following of the four. We can first measure Mario's jump using a super awesome hyper-complex meter graphic. Wow! So, our max jump height is 5 tiles high. It's important that this is the case, as jump height has to be balanced around the power-ups. What would not be good game design was if we as the player were forced to jump 5 tiles every time, since sometimes we need more precise little hops to reach our next area. And jumping the same amount every time will get repetitive before long. Also consider triple jumps grant 1 tile of extra height, allowing for satisfying moments that create greater game feel. You should design a short test level first, for the player to move around in, like an experiment. From here, you can tweak values and don't make anything final until you're happy with how the character is reacting to heights, surfaces, and the environment. Mario has a few special abilities, like the wall jump, spin for motion controls, and grabbing and throwing certain objects. What makes the game more interesting is the use of power-ups. These special items typically give Mario an extra hit and an ability, usually flight or some form of attack. What we can learn from this is at some point your protagonist should be able to do something special, whether they have to unlock it or not. Otherwise, there's nothing unique to remember your character by. This can be done naturally or through the use of a level's mechanic, like this snow stage where you need to avoid obstacles riding on this rotating platform. Each level contains 3 hidden coins, a checkpoint, and sometimes a secret exit to cut corners or skip entire worlds. We can notice a particular pattern to these coin placements. Standard coins are typically placed in areas to indicate safety or an action, like how these coins tell us it is safe to stand on these platforms, whereas the larger star coins are an 100% goal that unlocks a set of 8 trickier levels. Therefore, these coins aren't as guidance, but rather a skill check, sometimes hidden off the standard route. This helps flesh out levels rather than just a straight from A to B. Each level follows a system I'd like to explain using a chain. Each upcoming section links to the last, but each link becomes more challenging in one of 3 ways. Let's use 6-4 as an example. For starters, we immediately have a power-up for the player. Before we get a chance to drop down this ledge, a Monty Mole appears some distance away, then a second one lower down, so we aren't forced to engage with them. We can now begin to associate these semi-solid tiles with risk. In this next set of blocks, we'll find a Yoshi egg, with a much larger group of Monty Moles. This works well as the player has been given 2 items this early to deal with this threat. We can also see from these coin placements that the coins lead up to a star coin, reinforcing what we were saying earlier about minor collectibles acting as guidance. Now we have our first set of gaps, with the second blocked by a paratrooper. The player then enters what is known as breathing room, safe windows within the level that allow us to process previous and current challenges independently from one another, breaking up levels into managed pieces. As our next challenge, we have to climb this large set of semi-solids while dodging a few Monty Moles, putting them in vertical space where there's risk of them dropping on us, unlike before. Now we're introduced to the scale lift. The lifts operate on a wire that if one lift is pulled too far, both will snap, risking a fall. Then immediately after, We see a Monty Mole hop onto the lift and push it down, causing the platform to almost break. Because I hesitated here, the platform became unreachable and we had to lose our Yoshi to gain some ground. Once the two main elements have been combined, we reach the checkpoint to save our progress. We get another stretch of breathing room away from either element, along with these coins near the bottom. If the ones by Star Coin 1 were anything to go by, there should be something down here. From here, we can access an underground area containing Star Coin 2, which spits us back out a little ahead of where we were. Now we have another development, 3 consecutive scale lifts and a paratrooper at the very end. In the middle, we have a red ring serving as an optional challenge. This is very important to design, as it gives players a chance for a reward away from just the star coins. If all collectibles are hidden, players who don't look for them could view the level as more bland. So add a challenge in plain sight encourages risk. If it weren't for these, it would be harder to separate skilled players, as they have nothing extra to do to show off their skills. Some players will skip all the coins, and others will grab every last one, and that's okay. Designers understanding not every player is the same. We are led to believe we receive some breathing room here, however another Monty Mole jumps out to surprise us. We do get a yellow Yoshi though, so we can't lose. Now we enter the final challenge, serving as a combination of everything we've done up until now. 3 scale lifts in a row, with Monty rolls appearing on the last 2 requiring quick movement. If we want to get Star Coin 3, we need to use our propeller suit to reach the secret tunnel, leading us to the end, skipping the trickier part of the challenge. However, this requires the power-up, rewarding players skilled enough to make it here without losing it. Lastly, we reach a safe area where, instead of a stairway up to the flagpole, we have a thematic scale lift to close things out.
Oh yeah, Mario time!
So, as the level progresses, either a new element is added, 2 elements are combined, or one link of our example chain becomes longer, requiring more dangerous inputs in a row before the player can stop at some stable ground. We can graph out the level as something like this. There are 8 major obstacles featured, and the difficulty doesn't just rank up either. It fluctuates to alter the player's perception of the challenge. We won't cover difficulty too much here, as it's a very complex process to design. But by lowering the difficulty after the second hardest challenge, the player gets a moment to breathe, which causes the hardest challenge to seem harder than it actually is, since the difference in difficulty is greater. This technique helps keep things exciting, as it functions as a surprise factor to unsuspecting players. So for starters, even the most classic variant of platforming requires a character with good flow, some kind of processable speed and vertical movement. On top of this, there should be collectibles off the beaten path to avoid overly linear structures and provide more opportunities to challenge players. Which brings us to our next game. The climb and dash are the main abilities in Celeste. Keeping Madeline's set simple means complications can be added as players make progress. For the jump, we can take a look at how she compares to Mario Bros. Now, we can see from our adorable little graphic that Madeline's jump is 4 tiles tall, which seems short, and it is. Her jump is much wider though, but both can be amplified by mechanics that give her momentum. Climbing while moving lasts approximately 6 seconds, allowing her to hang onto objects for a short time. The dialogue is witty and charming, showing up every so often in small chunks to keep the focus on platforming, while developing character. It functions as the game's secondary breathing room, because it takes players' minds away from challenge with a narrative approach. This makes characters more relatable than our Italian plumber, simply because they aren't limited to generic voice lines, and the shift to animated 2D profiles is eye-catching. There's an overarching message of self-doubt in Celeste, tackling heavy challenges against all odds. Even though dialogue isn't necessary, the minimalist pixel art doesn't allow for facial expression, so the art style change makes sense for text to be present so we can become more immersed. Before we discuss the first level in detail, be warned this creature may seem adorable, but can be prone to cause frustration. Let's go over Chapter 1's structure. We start with a simplistic area featuring spikes. 3 lone jumps and a dash will get us to the next segment. We can also see the level uses subdivision, a technique taking each part of the level and condensing it into small rooms for an easier time processing challenges. By filling the space with these outward-facing tiles, the player has less room to look around and the goal is clear. Now we have our first primary element, the spring. Harmless on its own, Madeline's max jump height is increased and jumps automatically while on the spring. Then the player has to time a dash out of the jump to fit through, starting the combo with a new mechanic, ending with a familiar one. This allows the player to put more thought on the initial action of lining up the spring height so that the dash feels natural. Combining parts together like this allows the player to learn how to blend their options, and a lack of life count encourages reattempts, hence more dangerous designs than Super Mario Bros. Next up we have our traffic blocks, which change to green once stepped on, greatly boosting our favourite strawberry loving lady in that direction. Once they reach the end of the track, they slowly crawl back to their original position. Unlike Mario Bros, the collectibles have variants. If Madeline uses her dash, the strawberry will fly away. This creates a puzzle-solving element to the rooms, as players must navigate what would otherwise be simple without using one of the core abilities. Restricting players too heavily can backfire, but cases like this help challenge player expectations and hit a level of satisfaction by completing the task despite the limits. Back to traffic blocks, we can see how this one shoots directly up instead. Because of this, a well-timed jump will fling the player upwards, giving a visual indicator in this little ring that the player has received the boost and will travel further than normal. Just like any platformer, we also have secret areas indicated by slight tiling changes or cracks in walls to dash into. Since the levels are one continuous climb, scattering these makes 100% collection more interesting. In this room, and the one to the left, we have a diamond, which is new to players. An element represented with a simple shape can be hard to understand its purpose, so the game uses level design to teach the player. Clearly, this gap is too wide to cross in one dash, but the diamond can be reached. Making level elements required is the best way to teach players. Now our spring friend from before has 2 new complementing elements. Firstly, the ceiling spikes, which plays against the norm, since players should avoid the spring instead. Then the player must bounce not onto the floor, but a wall, in which they must drop and collect the diamond so that they can dash to safety. This is a great example of how a sequence can be developed by recycling old level ideas and reorganizing them. As the level reaches its climax, we see more elements grouped together. Multiple traffic platforms, multiple springs. We also find hidden areas not just being used for strawberries. We see hidden areas within hidden areas, revealing alternate paths. Design like this is completely alien to Mario Bros, with players having to backtrack for completion. Optional areas don't need to concern themselves whether the player is ready or not, since players never need to actually complete them. If they get frustrated, they can always try an easier route and come back later. The challenge should always have its worth and reward, however. The last major introduction is falling ice platforms. By the end of the level, players have to juggle 3 or 4 sets of elements at once, which adding difficulty in this way shows if players truly understand how each aspect of the chapter comes together. So, what has Celeste taught us? Even difficult games need to start easy. While demanding even at the early stage, there isn't much space or visual noise, so players can focus on precision. By introducing elements one at a time, players develop an ability to use them individually. Difficulty can then be added by combining them in unique ways. Making assets that interact with each other allows for greater combinations, and the most challenging can be hidden behind optional areas for players that desire more demanding gameplay. Lastly, avoiding a set number of collectibles per level keeps things unpredictable. Now that we've discussed a classic and a fan favourite, I'd like to cover what is personally my favourite way to experience the platformer and how it improves on them. Donkey Kong can climb on vines and grassy surfaces. While having a weak vertical jump, the ability to roll creates a lot of momentum, if you're able to sustain it. And then we have... behold the archenemy of all platformers. It may look innocent, but it is itching to give players excuses to rage. So how can we make water fun? Some games use minimal water, or avoid it altogether. DK allows the player to swim around freely. Each Kong ally also has their own way of boosting through water, or speedy traversal. It's not the water itself, but rather the change in movement doesn't combine well with the standard set players are used to. Donkey Kong can boost through enemies, as the roll equivalent allows for swift transitions in and out of water. DK knows its own weaknesses, and the level will fix that using its assets. Most vertical areas contain bouncy platforms to compensate for the low natural height. Players feel powerful due to the weight of Donkey Kong's movement, but platforming isn't just about platforms. Timing and control are just as important with the enemies. Threat diversity adds possibilities, using platforming that benefits enemy behavior. Hey, the game also has a hard mode if instant death no checkpoint levels sounds like you're kind of fun. But what I believe it does better than either of our previous titles is the collectibles. Like Celeste, there are variations, however it's the distribution that changes. Kong letters are never hidden, and usually just involve a daring bit of platforming. Like star coins, collecting all from a given world unlocks a brutal, non-stop trial with tricky layouts in the K levels. However, all 4 letters must be collected in one sitting for it to count. Puzzle pieces, however, are mostly hidden away, containing between 5 and 9 in a level. Unlike the letters, these can be collected individually. Sometimes, you'll be taken to a secret temple room, each with different challenges, encouraging players to pay attention to the environment, where a puzzle piece will be rewarded if you grab all the bananas within the time limit. Once all the pieces from one level have been found, they unlock various artwork from stylized to scrapped level concepts. There's clever use of dynamic angles and layer promotion, which is just when background objects become part of the experience. Constantly blasting into the background, revealing deeper parts of the level, help modelled environments come alive. Every world either has a minecart or rocket barrel stage to change up gameplay. While it's as simple as over and under for the rocket barrel, levels use background anticipation to help players prepare before they have to make a move. objects help us dictate patterns, like how you always go over purple fruits and under the orange ones in this level. This evolved level design uses Mario as a foundation, but rather than one specific mechanic, caters to more a theme. Instead of random platforms cropping up, each obstacle in Tropical Freeze makes sense within its context. Still introducing mechanics early on in a safe space, and developing the concept using other environmental assets or enemies, whether falling leaves in the forest or electrified anemones that retract in the presence of light. These become switches that must be rolled through, then closely following glowing fish to a final sprint where the floors and ceiling close in. All these work because danger is introduced out of the way first, and multiple threats can be strung together to create a tense sequence, helping players feel like they were warned about the level's mechanic before running into a serious challenge. While still using breathing room, DK uses it sparingly, sometimes exclusively near checkpoints, rather than all around levels. Probably because many feature some kind of chase or constant threat, like the rocket barrel courses. You shouldn't deter players who are finding the experience too hard, so featuring a way to bypass the difficulty is a nice touch. Shops offer helpful items for difficult levels, or finding missing puzzle pieces, being inclusive to players who need a helping hand. This way, you can have brutality like hard mode and the K levels, along with items like the invincibility banana juice to appeal to both sides of the skill spectrum. Okay, that was a lot to take in. I'd like to thank all of you who listened to what I have to say. Now that we've covered 3 unique titles, it's time to summarize our final thoughts. Dialogue can be a good way to tell a story and help your world building, or you could go the Donkey Kong route and tell stories through your environment. Collectibles and add-on items help with difficulty. Mario's star coins being on display tempts skilled or daring players. Mario Wii and Celeste's hidden rooms help players feel like they're discovering. Hiding collectibles there makes the reward feel worthwhile. Using background and foreground layers to their full potential makes scenes feel alive. Difficulty is absolutely key, and making easier challenges after hard ones helps player confidence. The opposite effect can also be achieved, as easy challenges lower the player's guard before upcoming difficult obstacles. This makes tough situations more memorable. Changing movement, like with water, needs to be smooth, so players don't have bad connotations with your water levels. All very helpful things taught to us by the platformer. So comment below what you liked about this analysis and if you found it helpful. More importantly, what could I have done to make things more clear? This has been a long one, so I appreciate your time. I'll be going now to do the whole process again. See ya!